What does beer mean to me? Beer, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is the four basic ingredients in beer, you know? For me, it starts with the malt, and then, of course, with the water, the yeast, and then the hops, you know? It kind of starts right from there in the genesis of the product. And kind of thinking about how the people who really started making beer in prehistoric Egypt, you know, I mean, kind of kneading dough over the top of juice was really like the first time that like products like beer were ever made. Then from there, as beer kind of grew and matured, it kind of taking on different places and different areas. So, say like Scotland had their own brand, Scotland, Ireland, and UK had their own kind of style, and then going over to say to Germany and kind of getting their whole style with the Viennas and the Pilsens, which are awesome beers. And then of course here in America, where everything just kind of blends together, which is one of the things I love about living here, is that there's not really a set type of beer that you have to make here, like you could run into, whether say in Germany or Belgium or in the UK. So here in America, I find that the meaning of beer to me in America is just that really it's whatever that people can envision, kind of as an alchemist kind of thing, and just making it whatever they'd like it to be, you know?
You know, it's something that I got into craft beer back when I started in my actual career. A couple of the engineers I was working with on a project introduced me to it, and you know, it's kind of, I think for me, it's the social, you know, it's a social community type thing. You know, it was.
Yeah, I would say unity. It brings people together.
Yeah, it's
white collar, blue collar. It's the environment that everybody's able to be in.
For a long time, I couldn't drink by myself. Like I would have to go out with people to have a beer. Just for some reason, it didn't taste right.
They do say that's a bad sign.
You know, I've gotten through that now that, you know, I own a brewery and have to constantly be sampling and whatnot. But really, I think that's a big part of it is, you know, the social aspect, you know, the relationships that are, you know, you build or, you know, enjoy while you're out with your friends or family having a beer. That, and, you know, when everybody's drinking, everybody's having a good time usually.
This is always good.
Plus, brewing is what, a combination of an art form and the science?
Yeah, it's the brewing side of it. You know, there's a couple very distinct types of brewers. If you asked her, she would be more of the, what's the word I'm looking for? By the books, very documented. I'm a little more ad hoc and.
Yeah, you're the mad scientist. I'm definitely more of the process.
She definitely follows the process.
Looking at it,
I'm definitely more of just throw a little bit of this in and try that and see how it comes out. So it ends up working out well. She keeps me in check, and then I make her, you know, experiment a little bit.
As long as you can reproduce when you succeed.
Yeah,
that's right. Do something you like.
Right.
So.
That's why he's got log sheets. Everything's got to be filled in,
them all
and
out.
I audit it. So it's funny, but I do.
It's tough. Beer is to me, I enjoy just the social aspect of it, you know, hanging out with friends. I love geeking out on certain beers, picking them apart. But just like, you know, like a setting like this, just bringing people together. Beer is kind of the common bond, social lubricant and whatnot. It's one of the main reasons I love it. I love and watching like a table, 4 people all drinking my beer is, you know, it's fantastic. I love it. You know, having a good time and enjoying themselves.
Yeah,
just the camaraderie of the beer community. Local brewers are fantastic. You know, Derek and Kristen over at Lunkenheimer and Garrett over at Good Shepherds, I mean, they've been great, and we always go back and forth, bounce ideas off each other. You know, it's great because we don't look at each other as competition whatsoever. You know, that's it's great, and that's how the craft beer community is generally all over the States.
That's a tough one. You first, man.
What does beer mean to me? I don't know. I come from a wine background, So I can sort of, I feel like it starts with wine, where I mean, with wine it was always like, man, I could really get a sense of place with this wine. It transports me to a place without actually traveling there. I can take a bottle of Burgundy, you know, French Pinot Noir, and have that place, that year, that person's hands, that yeast right here in, you know, upstate New York in a bottle, and I can keep exploring everything. There's so much to know, whether it's a wine from Hungary, whether it's from Burgundy, whether it's from Italy. I mean, I think the same thing with beer. It's a travel and it's an experience, and you can just keep learning and going down the rabbit hole and finding more and drinking cool styles, and just really, you have to drink good beer and explore beer explore wine and beer. Just keep exploring. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, I would be the same.
And the fact that everybody, you can take the same recipe and based on your water, or based on, you know, your ambient yeast, or based on, just like with wine, it will be a different product. And I think that you can really put your own stamp on things, which is cool.
Yeah, I think that with beer, it's like beer especially has always been like something that's a part of our, when they're made fermented beverages, ale was like one of the ones that was always a part of tradition, and part of the, you come home, you have a glass of ale, like in especially European history and stuff like that, and into American history. But so the whole thing is that's part of our history, and you can actually enjoy it. It's not just something that you drink because it's there, but it's something that you can explore. Like getting beers from all over the world, all over here. There's always something for you. There's always there's this wide spectrum of things for your style, for your tastes.
I just want to learn. I just want to, like, what's in that bottle? Like, what is that? You go to the Finger Lakes Beverage, or you go to the Thirsty Pug, and you see these crazy styles of beer pop up, and you're like, I want to know what that tastes like. I'm going to try that.
Then all of a sudden,
I want to brew that.
Yeah, and then you can all of a sudden start to be, you know, pick them apart.
Yeah.
These don't fit this style.
Yeah, you get.
But yeah, so it's cool.
It was okay.
But it's been going great here. I mean, the reception, the food's been good, the beer's been good. We have a big variety of beer. It's been hard to keep up, to be quite honest with you, because the brewery was kind of a little bit behind as far as getting all the equipment and everything up and running, but we're almost to that point where we can put beers out a little bit faster and try and keep up with demand. Ideally, we'd like to have at least 4 to 6 beers on tap. We have 4 on now, but it won't last. So as soon as we get another fermenter, another tank, we can increase our production, you know, by quite a bit.
Okay.
So looking forward to doing that. But yeah, everything's been fun. It's been great. Kind of educating Auburn in a way with craft beer, you know.
I think I've done beyond what the business I thought I was going to do. It's just surprising to me that most of the business is still coming from out of town. Syracuse and Rochester communities, the more kind of experienced beer geeks that kind of understand what I'm trying to do. Yeah. You can't really appreciate, you know, proper storage if you don't know what it is, or necessarily, you know, just having the best instead of having what's popular.
So what I said to myself is, when we opened, that I'd love to start to do this part-time, and but really now it's almost turned into a full-time job, and kind of keeping up with production, and just trying to kind of make the space what it should be, or what I'd like it to be. Because, you know, you kind of, when you first open a place, you have a vision, you know, and you kind of say, well, this is nice to start, we'll see how it goes, and then when we kind of say, oh, let's do something a little bit different, I have the freedom to do that, which is wonderful. That's one of the things I like the most about this, is the freedom that I have to make it what I'd like it to be. I don't have people telling me, I don't have any investors or anyone else telling me that I have to brew a certain beer on this day, or I have to make a beer that tastes like this. It's myself and my father, you know, and Dad lives in New Jersey, so for me it's me pretty much running the show and making it work, you know.
I'm doing about double what I expected. Yeah, because I knew the current market was still in its infancy. But now with all the local brewers, people are being exposed to craft beer more, coming in, you know, want to explore more different breweries, different styles, and such. So it's been good to have that.
So we first started out with literally, it was like an 8 by, what do we think that is, like a 7? So an 8 by 7 bar. It's now almost doubled in length. We threw another 8 feet on, because there are nights where I was having 2 and 3 people deep, and I felt like I wasn't able to get to the customers as fast as I'd like to. Now that I have an expanded bar, I feel like I'm able to kind of manage that a little bit better, and I feel the customer experience has improved based upon that.
So we're beyond. We've hit and gone beyond all of our target projections. This middle upgrade that we're doing with going to the 5-barrel was never a part of the business plan originally. We had planned on being able to run off from the 1-barrel for at least 2 years before trying to go into more of a 20 or 30-barrel. But obviously we're 7, 8 months in, and we're shifting gears a little bit. So
and you know, with this 5-barrel showing up at 8 months, and we ordered it 3 months ago. Right. So it didn't take long for us to realize that the business was going to do much better than we ever expected to do out of the gate. We didn't expect this to be a craft beer town, really. Just from our experiences in the local bars, there really wasn't much for craft beer here. So we thought it would be a challenge for the first year introducing the business to the community before people really understood what it was and what we're doing. But I think it really surprised us. It took off quick, which is awesome. I mean, the community's really supported us, which, you know, we can't thank them enough for the amount of support they've given us. It's definitely helped us realize that it's a very viable business that, you know, can really do well here.
Yeah, I think it helps us validate our choice of location, because we looked at a lot of other locations and we just kept being drawn back to our own hometown, and so I think it just kind of helped put some validity into that.
I think so, yeah. From Mike up at the Thirsty Pug, I know he sends people down all the time, as I send people down up to him all the time, you know. People down to prison, especially people that are traveling. Anybody that comes into town and is traveling, I always tell them about Mike, the Prison City, and also Derek and Kristen up at Lunkenheimer, you know. Because really, that kind of a day for people, I think, is a really nice kind of way to spend a day and just kind of travel around, see Auburn and weed sport, and enjoy really, again, what Cayuga County has to offer. There's times where I have issues, and I'll call Ben, or I'll text Derek and say, hey, I've got this going on. Have you seen this before? And of course, we all kind of talk about it, you know. Just the past couple weeks, Dad and I went out to Lunkenheimer and Prison City, and we go there and have a couple of drinks. It's really nice.
We have a really good relationship with them. I actually got a text from the brewer at Prison City today looking to see if he could borrow some raw materials. So we've definitely, Ben and I talk quite a bit about, you know, process and issues and stuff like that. And Garrett as well. We don't see Garrett quite as often because, like us, he works full time and brews full time too. So Ben's a little easier to get a hold of. The same thing with Dawn and Mark. They're both extremely friendly. We try to help each other out. We did the Cayuga County, I don't know what we called it, but the collaborative dinner with them.
Oh yeah.
That Dawn set up. That was great. We had a lot of fun there. Yeah, we get a lot of cross traffic. We send a lot of people there. They send a lot of people here. That and Thirsty Pug.
Yeah.
We get a lot of people bouncing back and forth between them, which is good. We all try to help each other out with that. Send people back and forth, and it's easy for us. It's 6 miles down the street, and the 2 other breweries are, you know, half a block away from each other. So it's really easy. Just turn out of the parking lot, go left 6 miles, turn left or right, and you're there.
I always try to stay in touch. I have a lot of people come in, ask who's got what on tap. A lot of people traveling through too. I always make sure that they know that the local breweries are close by, and if they're in town, to go check them out. And they've done the same with me. If someone's coming by to have a tasting, The nice thing about the industry too is everybody works together. You'll not see a lot of industries where someone will send a customer to a direct competitor to go try their beer. But we kind of have to work on building the community together to get people into craft beer, as opposed to fighting over what little market there is now.
Or if someone comes from out of town, like comes from Rochester or Syracuse, we say, well, check out Shepherd's, check out Lunkenheimer's, and also check out Thirsty Pug up there. The craft beer's a great craft beer store for this town. You know what I mean? And Mike really knows his stuff up there. So we, and he does the same thing for us. And like I said, it's a really great, partnership.
Well, first the beer. So we'll talk about the beer. See, one of the things I really enjoy about the brewery and my identity is that I try to have, as I said, different beers on each time. And that's why I continue to experiment with different hops and different malts, just to kind of have different flavors for people. And then, but the nice part is when I'm able to expand the brew house, what I'll do is be able to have like some consistent ones on, like my Scotch Ale or my Sunrise IPA, so that when people come in, they'll have the consistent ones they've always enjoyed, but also have a couple of my experiments that they would like to have. As far as the atmosphere, one of the fun things about like having this space is kind of updating it and changing it. Like in the past couple months, what has it been since September, so almost 8 or 9 months, and being able to kind of morph it again.
Good is when you taste a local beer that's good, you have to raise your game. Like you have to improve your quality. You can't be the brewery that's the one that's lowest on the totem pole. I mean, in a way, you can't. If your beer is real, it's a completely healthy, friendly competition, not like against the individuals, but the beers.
I think everybody wants to see everybody making good beer.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it was cool. We went to that event at Prison City. All the local breweries came together.
Yeah,
everybody's
tasting their beer.
Everybody's cool. Everybody's friends. Nobody hated each other.
Picking on us for all the stuff we're screwing up because we were new, because they've all been through it.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say that each brewery is kind of finding their niche, and I can almost tell by what the customer's purchasing, what brewery is going to kind of favor them more. Like I said, everything is so close by; it's not too out of the way to hit up everybody. But if I have someone come in and they're fusion of sours, obviously send them to Prison City because that's something he specializes in. Yeah. Where Garrett and Good Shepherd's is more traditional beers, and Lunkenheimer seems to mix it up and touch on all bases too. If people are more into a variety of things. So.
I'm not sure. In Cayuga County, I'm not sure. The interesting part is the wine trail. So if we can start to attract more folks like from the wine trail, I think it'd be really great for us in Cayuga County. I've been talking with some people here in town and in the area about ways to do that, because I feel that right now what a lot of people do, instead of kind of using Auburn as a midpoint to there and maybe driving down 20 and taking a nice scenic route, they jump on the thruway and they ride all the way right through and don't kind of think about like stopping here or at Prison or at both of us and as a starting point or another point to kind of have them enjoy different beer in another area,
I think so, especially like I said, so everything's so close together. A lot of these beer trails or wine trails, it takes an entire day to go around a lake. It's kind of a big commitment if you're short on time. Where you come into Cayuga County, especially with Aurora. Ales and Lagers opening, we'll have 4 breweries, within a 15-minute drive. I think that has a lot of appeal in itself. Everybody's putting out great beer, everybody's very close. So I think that we have that to our advantage as well.
It's depending on where their trail's starting. So actually I find us to be kind of the middle ground. So if you've got people going from Syracuse to Rochester, we're right in the middle, Rochester to Syracuse, it ends up in the middle. But we do get a lot of traffic.
Yeah, I think
it starts here and heads
as the Cayuga County scene starts to grow, we'll find that we're more on the front end of that. It makes sense. It's just it's a really new scene here. We don't do a lot of advertising, so we're still finding that a lot of people don't realize we're here.
Same thing with, you know, Good Shepherd and Prison City. So I think as people are starting to realize that there are 3 breweries open in the county and there's a 4th one on the way, and they're starting to make their way out this way. And a lot of them coming from Syracuse, it's the first stop just because they got to go right by to get to the other places.
It's a pretty standard question though for us to ask whenever anybody's in here. Are you on a tour? Are you looking at other breweries? Have you been to Auburn? So I think, you know, it's already kind of created. And I know they do some of the same things.
Yeah, on the flip side, you catch them leaving, you know, on the way home too. So
Right.
it could be the end. Usually we're not in the middle of the tour itself necessarily. We're usually on one side or the other because we're on the traffic for the way in or the way out.
And we've seen a lot of people just traveling to Auburn from out of town anyway, you know, so visitors to the area in general, and then find us. But we've also seen quite a few people coming to the brew pub on purpose and coming from out of town, you know what I'm saying? So they were traveling to Auburn specifically for us and for the brew pub. And we've seen quite a bit of that.
That's the question.
Sort of here to
That's the
stay.
big question.
That's the question. You know,
We both attend the Craft Brewers Conference in Portland, Oregon, and that's sort of the big question out there in the craft brewing community.
So everyone kind of thought there was in the '90s there was a big growth, and the bubble sort of burst, and a lot of breweries closed down. Nowadays, because you know there's more of a market for it, people are saying that the bubble's never going to burst. It's just going to kind of slowly deflate. It's going to be survival of the fittest. You know, the best breweries are going to survive, and the ones that you know don't make great beer, don't do it right or properly, are going to close down. You know, but it's pretty exciting because craft beer is certainly here to stay. You know? And there's plenty of room for more breweries, especially in the Northeast. It's because we're going to see what happens in the West Coast first, because they're the ones that are, you know, places like San Diego and Portland. They're just tons and tons of breweries. Yeah. We'll see what happens over there, but so far, so good. You know.
Just in Portland proper alone, I think there were 84 breweries.
Yeah,
don't quote me on it, but it's somewhere in that range.
Yeah, 80,
you know. And the big deal is that the craft brewing community and Brewers Association, its goal is just to capture a 20% market share.
Right.
You know, 20% of the beer sold, and
so
it's not
10
even
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a little bit more at this point. It's somewhere near 15 or 16, I thought.
No, it was 11, I think.
Okay.
You know, I
Mark
remember
could
Portland
tell you
itself
that
was 20%.
if you want like very specific data on that. By all means.
But it hovered around 9-10% for
years,
and now it's starting to climb a little bit quicker.
So even though it seems like this rapid growth and such a big thing, it's really just a small fraction still. So there's a long way to go before the bubble could ever be even reached, I think.
Well, I think we've kind of followed the wineries have kind of been in that same path, and they still seem to be going pretty strong. So
I don't think craft beer is a fad, and I think people that say that are probably either not beer people or they're scared of craft beer. Right? And the rationale is, you know, going back to the history of 4,000 breweries before the 1900s. That really what killed beer. I'll call it craft beer. It wasn't craft beer then, but beer with flavor was Prohibition, right. And then followed by that the diet beers, the light beers that they mass marketed in the 50s and 60s, which pretty much wiped out craft beer. But now that it's back, I think there would have to be a significant event like Prohibition to kill it. I don't think it would just go away as a fad would.
I think the other thing is a lot of people are also going back to local, buy local, farm on their own, live off kind of land, simplicity. So I think that helps drive the craft beer industry some, because that's exactly what we are.
I follow suit.
Of course, my hope is that it is that craft beer, and people just will kind of expect more from it, and will continue to enjoy it. I really hope that that it doesn't come to a point where there's too many breweries out there. I hope the craft industry just kind of continues to expand, and more and different beers kind of get out there, because really that's what I enjoy. I mean, they say variety is the spice of life, I mean, why not enjoy different beers with different flavors and see which ones you like?
I think right now, yes, but we're still growing. the more progressive beer markets like Portland, Denver, a lot of the larger communities in California, their craft beer market's over 30% right now, because people that had exposure to it had time to try stuff and get into it. Right now in New York, I think we're still under 10%. So I think, as the customers grow, there'll be more room for breweries and different stuff to pop up.
Here's what I feel about it. Mind if I answer
No,
this
go
one?
ahead.
I think that it's going to happen. So it'll happen where there gets to be enough where there's a lot of choice out there, and you're already starting to see it in the craft beer scene, like in Wegmans or something like that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of product out there. And then what's going to happen is anything that's not really up to par will kind of centrifuge out a little bit. I think
survival of the fittest.
And I think it'll happen that way. And I think it's going to be by beer quality. I think you've noticed that for the most part.
I think it's a ways off, though. I mean, you look at the West
Years.
Coast.
Yeah.
The West Coast, there are, I mean, so many breweries. We're just getting started on the East Coast, especially the Northeast.
And the cool thing is that most of these small places,
we've got years to go.
They're all like a 1 or 2 barrel system.
Yeah.
It's not like there's so much beer that they can just lower their prices and knock people out of a market. It's nothing like that.
Yeah.
There's enough to come to your tasting room and maybe a keg here or there. That's most of what everyone is doing. So
Except
it makes
for
it cool.
Ithaca beer, except for those guys. They seem to be huge.
They are really big.
I think it's having an open mind, when you go to Prison City, don't get a Michelob Ultra. Try a sample, try different things. You never know what you like until you have it, You wouldn't go to a restaurant and order the food with the least amount of flavor or ask for a diet wine, why would you do that, with beer? But as far as getting people to expand their palates, I try to find good crossover beers. Say if you're into a Belgian wheat, like a balanced saison will have be a little lighter in body but have much more character and kind of progress from there. Or going from a Belgian double, that lines up really nice with a Doppelbock or a stronger quad. So you can kind of take different flavor components from beer or even the wine and liquor world and try to match it up with the flavors that are available in beer as well. So.
To convert people to craft beer, number one, they have to be open to the experience. They really can't kind of come in with any preconceived notion saying, well, I don't like this or I don't like that. They have to try to kind of think about it as, this person's doing it this way, well, let me try it and see how it is. Rather than kind of coming in with preconceived notions that may kind of turn them off to a certain beer. Number two for people, I think, is kind of having a consistent product for them. As long as I can kind of keep putting out consistent beer for people that people seem to enjoy, I think that more people will start to understand craft beer and kind of say, wow, this is, and expect more flavor from it, and say, I like drinking a Bud Light or a Miller Lite or something, but let's step outside the box a little bit and try a stout or try an amber or an IPA. Just try something a little bit different to see what they think. Because even as a child, I didn't like things like asparagus or onions in my food, And as I've gotten older, I've learned to really appreciate the different flavors that can kind of come in food and wine and beer and cider. That's really one of the big things I'd stress.
But we do experience that quite a bit. That's why we keep the Kolschan that allows them to have a transition beer. Mm-hmm. We did a strawberry hef a couple weeks ago, and that did the same thing. So it's a matter of educating. So you've got two choices. You can give them something similar, and then they're going to compare it to what they've had in the past, or you give them something to the totally opposite end of the spectrum, and then their mind's not biased yet. You kind of feel it out in conversation, and then you just throw a little bit of samples at them here and there without having them go through a flight and have conversation. And it seems we haven't really had anybody.
Most people that walk in the door are at least somewhat open-minded, and they're looking for an experience. And I've found in just my personal experience that if you can find a flavor that resonates with the person, then you can find them a beer they like and gradually get them into a craft beer. We've seen multiple people like that, and they pretty much tell us that we've ruined them from cheap drinking because they can't go back to the Buds and Coors and Millers anymore because they want flavor now.
Some of our most dedicated customers are exactly that. We hooked them when we were home brewing. And I'm not sure how that happened, but it certainly wasn't as good, of course.
I'd be lying if I say it wasn't a little tough in Auburn because of the, you know, it's
new.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a new thing. It's Mark likes to joke around, you know, Mick Ultra is kind of the unofficial beer of Auburn. People love their light lagers, but we're here to change that. You know, I love having somebody try my beer and say like, "Oh, I didn't know beer can taste like that." You know, it's one of the main reasons why I love doing it. Just kind of expanding people's horizons and their palates in terms of beer. But yeah, it's been interesting, especially with the sour beers, because some people try it and they're like, "Oh my god, this is the weirdest thing I've ever had," and then some people absolutely love it. But generally, you know, the reception's been good. The hardest thing, of course, is getting people to kind of stray away from their macro lagers, their Bud Miller Coors. You know, trying to get them off that, and okay, maybe start with, you know, this lighter craft beer. You know, but it's certainly growing. It's certainly growing. We're getting a good steady cast of regulars here.